Greetings, friends. This is Self Ministry and welcome. Friends, many of us have lost our dear friends. We have lost family members. We have lost colleagues. It's been over 2 years and we are still in this crisis of COVID pandemic, and many are still yet to be victims. Where is God when disaster strikes? Brethren, disaster defies understanding. It sweeps across our hopes without begging our pardon. It cares not how ruthless our dreams are being shattered. Disaster has no sense of timing. Some years it comes in twos and threes, striking our dreams at their beginning or interrupting them in progress. It doesn't have the courtesy to wait till they are finished. Disaster delights in surprise. Seldom phones it home to say ahead. It used to happen to other people. Now it happens to us. Where is God when disaster strikes? Does he know what is happening to us? Does he even know when we are hurting? Does he even care? If he does, why don't we hear the sound of his footsteps coming to help, rising from this troubled planet like an incest of despair? Is the persistent question. Why? But we shall never understand trouble. We shall never understand fire and flood and quaking earth until we understand what is going on behind the scene. There is no way to understand our headache until we understand God's. Watch a boy of 5 playing with his toy soldiers on the floor, moving them in a parade or sending them into combat. He is their commander-in-chief. He can manipulate them as he chooses, and he can give them away or throw them into the trash can if he likes. Ask that boy of 5 how he will feel if those toy soldiers should suddenly come alive and watch his face light up. Just think, they could march, parade all by themselves. What a fun. But what if those come alive soldiers should start fighting each other, killing each other? What if they wouldn't stop even if he tells them to stop? What if they will rebel against their young commander? What if one of those tiny soldiers should decide that he wants to be the commander-in-chief? Now, the boy will have a problem, isn't it? What will he do? Will he go outside and jump the rope and forget about them? Probably not, isn't it? He loves them to do that. He loves them. Even at 5, he is bigger and stronger than those tiny soldiers. He could carve them back into line and make them behave. But that will only prove that he didn't really want those alive soldiers in the first place. He wanted toys that he could manipulate and control. So what can the boy do? Do you understand his dilemma? Then you're beginning to understand God's dilemma. For God didn't want toys that he could manipulate and control. He didn't want wind-up angels or battery-powered people. He didn't want electronic marvels. He wanted real-life people that could love and who could love him back. He wanted them to be free to choose. He says to every one of his subjects, Joshua chapter 24:15, and if it seem evil to save the Lord, choose for yourself this day who you will save. Brother, choose this day who you will save. And when God gave his subjects the power to choose, he took a tremendous risk. Somebody, somewhere, sometime might choose to rebel. And somebody did. Do we know who it was? Isaiah 14:12-14. How thou fallest from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning, how art thou cut down to the ground, the one who did weaken the nation? For you have said in thine heart, I will ascend into the heaven, I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will also sit on the mount of the congregation on the farthest sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High, the Son of the morning, heaven's highest angel, standing next to the throne. But he became proud and he wanted the place of God. We'll learn more about him from the prophet Ezekiel. Let's read Ezekiel 28, 14, 15. You were the anointed cherub who covereth. I have established you. You were on the holy mountain of God. You walked back and forth in the midst of the fiery stones. You were perfect in your ways from the days you were created, till iniquity was found in you. Your heart was lifted up because of your beauty. You corrupted your wisdom for the sake of your splendor. I cast you to the ground. I lay you before kings that they might gaze at you. Is God in any way responsible for evil? We have read that Lucifer was created perfect. Is God responsible for Lucifer's choice? Did God create the devil, or Lucifer made a devil out of himself? But now, what will God do? What will he do, brethren? What were his options? What will he do? What could God do in this time? What were his options? Think of it through, brethren. God could carve his subjects back into line by force, and he could throw them away like broken toys. Here, the power. But it wouldn't be misunderstood. Wouldn't he? It will seem as to prove that he wanted robots, after all, not people who could choose. Was there any safe way to deal with rebellion except to give it time to demonstrate its ugly character? Even if it should take thousands of years of war and suffering and heartache until all the universe have seen enough. Sin must one day be destroyed. The safety of the universe demands it. But God will not take that extreme action until he can do with it the approval of every intelligent being. Yet rebellion demanded some immediate action. Rebellion will not be ignored in heaven. Now let's read Revelation 12. It says a war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon and his angel fought, but they did not prevail, nor was a place found for them in heaven any longer. So the dragon was cast out, that serpent, that devil, that Satan who deceives the whole world. He was cast to the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. The rebellion of Lucifer had brought a frightening note of discord into the perfect harmony of heaven. The threat of it spreading through the universe was very real. Once again, a decision must be made. Will the Father and the Son, knowing that this planet might choose to join Satan's conspiracy, go ahead with their plan to create this world? They would, and they did. And with the creation of this complete, when God was done, what did he do? In Genesis 1 it says, then God saw everything that he had made, and indeed it was very good. So the evening and the morning were the sixth day. Thus the heaven and the earth and all the hosts of them were finished. Now Genesis chapter 2 verse 1 to 3. And on the seventh day God ended his work which he had done, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had done. Then God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because that in it he had rested from all his work which God had created and made. How could God rest, knowing that the security of the universe was threatened by Lucifer's rebellion? Was it because he had a plan? Yes, brother. God knew what he will do about the challenge of the earth. He knew exactly in scripture as to what the plan was and when it was laid out. Let's read Revelation 13. and all those that dwell on the earth will worship him, whose name have not been written in the book of life, since from the slain of the Lamb from the foundation of the world. The Lamb which was slain from the foundation of this world, brethren, it was Jesus Christ. When the first man was created, Jesus knew what he will do should a man sin. He will come to this earth and die in man's place so that he could be forgiven. He will fight rebellion with a cross. But now, what will Satan do? It is impossible to understand disaster, to understand trouble, to understand heartache and death until we understand the cosmic conflict that is now in progress. Trouble will always be a mystery until we assess what is going on behind the scenes. We are afflicted with a sad human tendency to credit ourselves with all our successes and all the good things of life, and blame disaster and heartache and death on God. And it isn't that way, brethren. We credit ourselves with all our successes and blame disaster and heartache and death on God. Suppose, if you will, that you are a very rich man with servants, extensive land, holdings, and all the trappings of wealth. How will you react if suddenly, without warning, like a bolt from the blue, someone should knock at your doorstep and tell you that the oxen plowing your fields have just been stolen, and your servants working with the oxen have been killed? And before, brethren, you could even close the door, another messenger rushes up to tell you that a fire has burned up all your sheep along with the servants, watching them. And before the messenger has finished with his sad news, another arrives to tell you that all your camels are gone, and the servants with them, they have been killed. But it isn't all. Before you can even recover from this multiple shock, another messenger arrives with the worst news of all. Your sons and your daughters were having a little get-together time at your eldest brother's home. A fire, wind break down, and all your children are dead. 15 minutes ago, you were a rich man with a wonderful family. Now, you have nothing. And on top of it all, you soon break out with boils from the head to the foot. All you have left of yourself is a once happy situation of your wife. And you might be better off without that wife, for she offers no sympathy to your situation. She suggests that you curse God and die. How will you react to all this? Wouldn't you be tempted to be absent with God for unleashing all this on your defenseless head? And apparently, without even a reason or explanation. You say it never happened, but it did, brethren. You can read it for yourself. Now, let's go Job 1:14-19. A messenger came to Job and said, the oxen were plowing and the donkeys were feeding besides them, when the Sabeans raided them and took them away. Indeed, they have killed the servants with the edge of the sword. And I alone have escaped to tell you. While he was yet speaking, another also came and said to the fire of God, it fell from heaven and burned up the sheep and the servants and consumed them. And I alone have escaped to tell you. While he was yet speaking, another also came and said, the Chaldeans formed 3 brands, raided the camels, and took them away, yes, and killed the servants by the edge of the sword. And I alone have escaped to tell you. While he was still speaking, another also came and said, your sons and your daughters were eating and drinking wine in their oldest brother's house. And suddenly a great wind came from across the wilderness and struck the corners of the house, and it fell on the young people, and they are dead. And I alone have escaped to tell you The Bible's account of Job's experience is unique in that it tells us, the readers, what Job himself did not know. It tells us what is going on behind the scene. And here it is, Job chapter 1, chapter 2. There was a day when the sons of God came before God to present themselves and before the Lord, and Satan also came among them. And the Lord said unto him, where do you come from? So Satan answered the Lord and said, from going to and fro, from on the face of the earth, from walking back forth on it. Then the Lord said to Satan, have you considered my servant Job, that there is none like him on earth, a blameless and upright one who fears God and shuns evil? So Satan answered the Lord and said, does Job fear God for nothing? Have you not made a hedge around his household and around all that he has on every side? You have blessed the work of his hands, and his possessions have increased in the land. But now stretch out your hand and touch all that he has, and he will surely curse you to your face. And the Lord said to Satan, behold, all that he has is now in your power. Only do not lay a hand on his person again. Here was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord. And Satan came also among them to present himself before the Lord. And the Lord said unto Satan, from whence thou comest? Satan answered the Lord and said, from going forth and to and fro from the earth, and from walking back and forth on it. Then the Lord said to Satan, have you considered my servant Job, that there is none like him on the earth, a blameless and upright man, one who feareth God and escheweth evil, and is still hold fast to his integrity, although he incited me against him to destroy him without a cause? So Satan answered the Lord, and he said, skin for skin is all that a man has, he will give for his life. But stretch out your hand now and touch his bone and his flesh, and he will surely curse you to your face. And the Lord said unto Satan, behold, he is in your hand, but spare his life. So Satan went out from the presence of the Lord and struck Job with painful boils from the sole to his foot, to the crown of his head. The presence of the Lord, and struck Job with painful boils from the sole to his foot, to the crown of his head. And he took for himself a potsherd which to scrub himself while he sat in the midst of the ashes. Then his wife said to him, do you still hold fast to your integrity? Curse God and die. Here, brethren, we have a conversation between God and Satan. God expresses confidence in Job, but Satan charges that Job only saves God because God favors and protects him. It will be different under other circumstances, Satan says. If Job were not favored, God gives Satan permission to do what he likes, so long as it does not touch Job personally. Now, when Job still trusted God, though he couldn't understand what was going on, what was happening in his life, Satan says it wouldn't be that way if he were permitted to touch Job's person. But God told Satan, go ahead, but spare his life. Then the boils and so-called friends told him he must be a terrible sinner to deserve such a judgment from God. But though Job never understood, though he thought God had set all this trouble, what did he say? Job 13:15, though he slay me, yet will I trust him, even though I will defend my ways before him. Do you see, brethren, who delights in bringing heartache, tears, and disaster? It is not God. It is the cruel and the ruthless enemy. Listen, Jesus will love to walk through the villages today, just as when he was here on earth, and he will leave no one sick. He will love to walk through the hospitals, send every patient home healed. He will love to stop by every beside a touch of the healing. He will love to keep all the cars from colliding, all the planes from crashing, all the buses from plunging through the guardrails. He will love to keep this planet, brother, and the rivers from flooding, the forest from burning. But if he did, friend, if he did, we will never understand. And the universe will never understand just how cruel and ruthless and lethal sin is. Simply, we must understand to cut the awful demonstration short too soon will be to risk springing up again. The greatest mystery of all to millions is why the innocent must suffer with the guilty. But the argument between God and Satan is not over yet. And if God were to favor and protect and heal his own people all the time and answer their prayers as he would like to answer them, letting disaster fall only on the rejectors of his grace, don't you see how quick Satan will be to charge God with unfairness? Don't you see how quick the enemy will be to charge that we serve God only because of his special favors? It is impossible to understand tears and trouble except as we understand the conflict that is now accelerating towards its final wind up. There is no other way to make sense out of what is happening today. It is a controversy about to be decided between God and Satan, between good and evil, and you and I are involved in these last disparate encounters. Good and evil angels are battling for our loyalties. If our eyes were to open the invisible world, we will see how fierce these battles are. It is a controversy about to be decided between God and Satan, between good and evil, and you and I, we are involved in these last disparate encounters, brethren. Good and evil angels are battling for our loyalties, brethren. If our eyes were to open to the invisible things, we will see this battle, brethren, happening around us. Above us, the storm. We have God. One day, brethren, he will explain this to us, all these mysteries. We shall understand and approve the way that he has led. Now, it is our turn to review and to respond. Do you understand now, brethren, why God has not stepped in to stop the war, the suffering, the heartache? One of the most important steps you can take is to decide to trust God when God trusts you with righteousness. One of the most important steps you can make right now is to trust God even though you do not understand. Let us pray.